Howdy, folks, and welcome to Moose Podcast 248. You guys must have had a killer week because you've been kind of quiet. But I appreciate all you're doing to keep pushing the Moose Podcast, and I appreciate you coming back. So thanks ever so much. Also want to thank my good friends at Bedford Camera. Bedfords.com, home of the Moose discount. MOOSE, saving you real money. In case you haven't noticed, Bedford's, along with Mr. Moose, that's me, we're bringing you a live aviation seminar at the end of the month on the 31st. I'm going to be in the Tulsa store talking with a great group, a couple seats left there, and then I'm going to be online at the same time with a bunch of you. And I appreciate a number of your names I see have registered. I recognize them, and I appreciate your support and being there. But what about the rest of you? Come on, have a great time. There's going to be some specials for the event. I got at least 5 hours, of material, more material than you're going to see in my book Takeoff and online combined, which includes a lot of new things that I have learned I want to share. So Bedford's Camera, thanks for supporting not only the Moose Podcast, but being part of this great online seminar. And thank you all for taking time to listen and drop on by. So let's get right on to this week's topic. I've been having some really good conversations by email with Jeff. And to sum it all up is this week's topic. Is it worth going into biz? Is it worth going into the photographic business right now? Jeff has some great points. He's a really good shooter, a really strong shooter. Not the best in writing skills, but his question has to do with coming out of the pandemic, folks being at home trying to, for lack of better terms, fill their void of time while they're at home. And from his experiences, he has found that getting into the photographic business is a bit of a challenge. Now, Jeff's line of photography, a genre, a little bit different from mine in that it's more of the, I'm going to say the portrait, senior portrait, kind of casual wedding kind of genre, which historically has always been a very impacted genre in photography, and it's really hard to get started in business. But he wants to know, is it worth it? And he wasn't talking exactly about getting rich and famous, though he wouldn't mind that. Nobody would. But it was just the kind of the nuts and bolts of, one, is it a money-making proposition? And two, I think really what he's most concerned about, which makes sense, is would it kill the passion and the love he has for photography? So those are really great questions. So I'll have to break this up a little bit. Let's start with the monetary part. I've talked about the business of photography a number of times here on the podcast. And I've tried to encourage a lot of folks to get into the business. And I have to tell you that my track record, considering the hundreds of people I've coached or mentored to get in the business, there's only a handful that actually have done it and have stayed in business. Now, why is that? Well, it's kind of part of Jeff's question. One, the business side. Two, the passion side. But the business side, the one thing I think, the aspect that really throws up the wall for a lot of folks is they didn't understand getting into it just how time-consuming it really is. And it is time-consuming. There's no ifs and buts about it. No matter what you do, if you're self-employed, there is no such thing as a 40-hour work week with time and a half for overtime. There is no pension plan, retirement plan, health plan. There's no big umbrella that's going to, take care of you if things go south. That lack of security is why there's no 40-hour work week. I've been putting in way more than that of late, quite a bit now, as we're pushing to do different things here at WRP. And that's the actual physical, spending time at a desk, at a computer, on a phone. That doesn't also include all the time your brain is spinning, at least mine's spinning. Sometimes it actually stops and does something with all that spinning, but it is a very time-consuming occupation because you are working for yourself. And most, not just myself, but most tend to push themselves harder when you're self-employed versus when you work for somebody else, because the clock will tick and you do get to go home. Had an interesting conversation with my sons over 4th of July, and they're talking about the 4-day work week instead of the 5-day work week, and all that goes into it. And for better or worse, both Brent and Jake have got mom and dad's kind of work ethic. So they don't necessarily just stop when the clock stops. They get the work done, and then they know when they stop, they have that note of satisfaction that they did that job. And that has to go into the photography genre when it comes to a business. As I was talking with Jeff, there is a lot of times where you have to kind of let things, for lack of better terms, gel. There might be a time where your computer is doing a sort, and during that time you have two options. You either can kind of gel, relax, catch your breath, or if you were kind of like brought up like myself, there's that saying I've mentioned before, you can always find something to do while you're waiting for the paint to dry. And that kind of multitasking, when you use technology in your favor, allows you to get more work done. If you get more work done, then you get ahead, and it kind of starts snowballing. And then you find two things happen. What seems like a nonstop work ethic actually starts giving you more breather time because you're riding that wave, you're building that snowball. And then more things happen that are positive. Like Joel Grimes says in his business class, it takes 8 phone calls to get the one answer. That's kind of true. You have to throw a lot of things out there over the wall to see what's going to stick. And the more you do it, the more sticks, and then things keep going. And then you'll get to a point where there's kind of a crescendo, and then it will go down again, and it goes up again. And it takes time to get that whole rhythm to make that happen as a self-employed photographer. Because you're going to do a lot of experimenting, both with the photography, the marketing, the working with clients. You're going to have to deal with the net due 30, that's 6 months past due. Yeah, that gets to be a little old, especially when it gets into 5 or 6 digits. But that's not uncommon. That's part of it. So is it worth going to business? When you first start out, yeah, you think so. And then you hit your first roadblock, and it's like, what were you thinking? And then you get past the roadblock and you get into it for a little while. It's like, yeah, it is worth it. Now, the monetary part, is there a giant payday involved? Yeah, there certainly can be. There are many examples out there of that happening. Now, when I say many, if we were to look at those examples and look at the overall number of photographers in business for themselves, it's a really small fraction. And I'm not part of that many. I'm part of that big mass. And that's just fine for what we're doing. And you've got to decide that for yourself as well. Just what are your goals? And if you're going to go into business and if you want to think of it, see if it's worth it for you, you've got to have that goal for your year and your 5-year and your 10-year. And that goal has to be photographic and photographic business. You kind of need to separate a little bit. Even though they're joined at the hip, you've got to decide how you go about it. And that's the part that you have to think about when it comes to the flip side of Jeff's question. And can it do harm or kill your passion for photography? I mentioned a little bit ago how I've mentored hundreds of getting into the business. There's only a handful have actually done it. And that other number of hundreds who, aren't part of that handful, the one reason a lot of them got out of the business was one, because it's a time sink. And two, a vast majority of them found that when they put the pressure on themselves, that when they click with the camera, that it produced X amount of dollars, their passion for photography changed. It either wasn't the same or gone completely. That pressure can really do a number on the creativity, and that creativity feeds that passion. Is there a way around that? I don't know of one. I've hit that wall with a lot of shooters out there, and I don't have the answer for anybody on that. They ask, well, how did you get through it? Well, in part, a large part is I have Sharon, right? This is a two-person office, even though she's not doing taking the photographs, being the creative part behind the camera. She supports me in many other ways, from everything from little things like answering the phone and dealing with clients to the, cleaning up my writing as I write those articles to get them out and to say, yeah, this works and that doesn't work. So that's a big part of how I think I got through those moments. And there are times where I'm just not interested in shooting, which is really rare. Most of the time, there's the camera's in my hand every day, and taking pictures that mean something to me happens quite a bit. It's not every day, but not far from it. And that kind of quest keeps me going. And there's always that, I know when there's going to be a lull, I'm going to pull out some wackadoo thing, and I've pulled out many, to see if it'll work. And some of them you hear about, and many of them you don't, because they totally just go down in flames. But that failure tends to light my passion. And so that's how I do it for myself. And that doesn't work for a lot of people. Just did a great interview with Behind the Shot with Steve. And he said he knows that I'm this guy who always is pushing technology just to see if I can break it. And that kind of does feed my passion. And it might not yours. So it gets back to, is it worth getting in the biz? Now that I've, turned the corner and I'm looking behind at 40 years of doing this for a business, yeah, I can honestly say that it's very much worth it. When I look at all that, the good fortune that it has brought to myself and my family, there's no doubt about it. Sharon and I were just reminiscing on our 40th of all the adventures we have had so far in our lives together. And they all were more or less based around the camera. From the honeymoon on, the camera's always been there. So from that point of view, yeah, there's no doubt about it. Can others replicate what we have done? Oh, yeah, no problem. I put so much on the website, in the broadcasts. Yeah, you could replicate and do better than we have done, because, hey, I've made all the mistakes for us, let me tell you. And I keep making them, and I keep trying to share them. It's not like I stopped making mistakes. They keep getting made. But that's okay. That's part of this process. So Jeff, after our conversations, I felt really good, the fact that he thought he was going to go for it. He's not going to just quit his job, but he's going to put out a shingle, and he's going to give it a try. And I'm going to keep helping him as much as I can. And that's kind of part of this whole process, is you're not in any of it alone. And that's the thing to take away from it. You do it slow and easy. You will win the race. But you got to keep in mind that your goals can't be fame and fortune, and they can't be short term. but anybody can do it because it's really worth being in the photographic business. I look forward to talking with you guys some more this week. You take care. Stay hydrated with this heat. And remember to make every click your story.